Olá, seja bem-vindo ao Campo Diplomático, espaço dedicado às relações do Brasil com o mundo. Eu sou Catiúcia Sotomayor e hoje converso com o embaixador do Irã no Brasil, Hossein Gharibi. Formado em Relações Políticas, com mestrado em Diplomacia em Organizações Internacionais e doutorado em Relações Internacionais, o embaixador já exerceu funções na Itália e nos Estados Unidos, também na ONU em Nova York e está no Brasil desde 2020. Welcome, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for your presence. Salam.
Salam, thank you, and hello to you and your audience, and thank you for inviting me to Campo Diplomático.
Thank you very much. So let's start talking about the fact that you came to Brazil in the middle of the pandemic. So have you had the opportunity to travel around our country?
Yeah, true. There were certain limitations from the start of my mission here, which happened almost a year ago. But we needed to follow the agenda items that we had, and we needed to find some innovative ways. One of the good things that helped me a lot is the using of technology. Nowadays, there are a lot of social networks that are very useful and common. I could use this to communicate with many people here through video conferences. I was able to exchange views, to get to know many people, to get to know the governors in different states here. And also with the help of some business people, I could use their private jet to pay visits to São Paulo several times, to Paraná, to Mato Grosso, and I'm planning to visit Maranhão, Pará, as well as Mato Grosso do Sul as soon as possible.
That's amazing. But when you visit these states and you talk to these people, is agribusiness one of the subjects?
Of course.
One of the matters?
One of the main ones.
Oh, that's perfect.
Because the main part of our trade relations between Iran and Brazil is agribusiness, is agriculture. So actually, I've been invited for associations of farmers in these states, and I had the privilege to talk to some farmers, some people who are engaged in agribusiness, and I had very good talks to them. You know, our trade relations, both direct and indirect, is over $5 billion each year, sometimes going even more than $6 billion. So it's a big business, it's a huge one, and we need to be engaged. And as ambassador, I need to make sure that everything is working well. And the more direct contacts with people in the field, the better for our understanding and to make our relations sustainable and long-term.
And it could be even larger, right? Because our markets can be complementarities. Is that it?
That's true. Whatever you produce here, there is a very good market for it in Iran, not only in Iran, but also in our region. Our economies is in close relations with our neighboring countries. And the more food products is that, the more opportunity for the government to make sure that people have enough food to eat and to feed the population. And food security is one of the things that are very important issue in nowadays world. It's important that every government makes sure that people have enough food for their consumption. On the other hand, Iran is a country known for its oil and petrochemical industries. So we produce a lot of fertilizers each year, and Brazil is a very good market for fertilizers. From beginning of 2019, we started to introduce our urea to the market. And now our urea is well known in Brazil, and many farmers, they know urea from Iran. It's a good quality with reasonable price. And it's just one example. Other petrochemical products, especially the fertilizers, also have good markets, and our business people are working in these areas.
And would you say there is a chance that we can strengthen this relationship and we can open more markets? How can we do that? What are the opportunities?
There are two things. One is that to expand the level of business now we have on these items that we are importing from Brazil. Another thing is diversification. Brazil is not just producing 1, 2, 3 main items. There are a lot of items that are produced here. And agribusiness is not just the final products that we see in a matter of corns or soybeans. There are a lot of other areas in agribusiness that we can explore them, we can exchange information on them, and we can work on them. My estimation is that we can simply enhance our relation to $10 billion annually. It's doable. Every day I'm in close contact with my Brazilian interlocutors, from people who are working on the farms. I go to farms and talk to people who are working there, in Goiás, Goiânia. Goiânia is the state.
Goiás is the state,
yeah.
Goiânia the city.
Goiânia is the city?
Yes.
Oh, Goiás. So I go to Goiás, I go to Mato Grosso, I go to Paraná, different state, and talk to farmers. So the more I talk to them, I talk to governors, I talk to representatives and all deputies, and also senators from the other states. I talk to people in the federal government. So the more I'm convinced that there are a lot of good opportunities that we can use them for the benefit of our people. And as I said, Brazil is a very good market for Iranian products. And also Iran is a huge market for Brazilian products. So we can simply enhance our relations. And there is one thing that I want to refer here, and that is the concept of geographical distance. This concept in nowadays has changed a lot. Before, because there were less limited technology, limited means of transportation, distances was a big challenge for everybody. But now with a lot of means of communication, with means of transportation, technology has made this challenge something that we can find solution for it. Between the two ports, one port in Iran and one port in Brazil, only there is a body of water. There is no other, I would say, impediment that can stop our communication, our transportation. But sometimes between two countries that they have railroads, for example, they have land roads. Between them, there might be some very difficult things that are, seems to be insurmountable. So we need to rethink about geographical distance. And it's not a problem, and sometimes it could be a privilege for both countries.
But if the distance is not a challenge anymore, what are the problems that our producers can have trying to access your market?
Unfortunately, in recent years, the U.S. sanctions, unilateral sanctions, has made the banking between the two countries difficult, and this is why we, let's say, we work on bartering trade. In bartering trade, banking is not involved. We bring some of the items that are sold here, that are used here, and instead we buy products from Brazil. But sanctions is a political tool, and politics is always changing. It's a dynamic matter. So we need to work together, to plan together, and get ready for using and grabbing the opportunities that are ahead of us. We are now working, but I'm sure that the future is more promising, and we can use many opportunities soon.
And we have agreements, right? One of them, you told me you're going to work with Embrapa. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Embrapa is, I can tell you, is a Brazilian miracle. Now, among the first people whom I met here in Brazil was one of the former heads of Embrapa and one of the most experienced ones. I've had so far 3 or 4 times a round of long conversation with that gentleman. So I learned a lot from him, how Embrapa started to work and made Brazil to be one of the big producers in soja, in cotton, in corn, and other products. Brazil is doing very well. So Embrapa is a model, a showcase of Brazil that many countries, including my country, we want to use the experience of Embrapa. We have already, about 3 months ago, we signed an agreement between Embrapa and the Iranian counterpart, and we are waiting for the situation of pandemic to get better so we can send instructors, professors from Embrapa to go to Iran and to start projects in order to transfer technology and experience of Brazil to Iran. We have also some good experience in certain areas of agriculture that can be used by Embrapa. So there are a lot of good opportunities that we can work together, and Embrapa is something that I look at very specially.
You mentioned these experiences. What can we say about innovation in your country, and how can we work together in this matter?
The question is that the climate in both countries are different. You have here abundance of water, but we have in the entire area in the South and West Asia, a scarcity of water. So having good plans for irrigation is something that we needed more. So we have worked a lot in order to make sure that with less water, produce more. This is something that we have some good experience in it. We are also very good in nanotechnology if it is used in agriculture. Iran is one of the top countries that have done great in nanotechnology. And we have an agreement with Brazil to work together, to cooperate together. And we are about to extend the term of this agreement. It was for 5 years, and we can extend it for another 5 years. So there are a lot of good opportunities that we can work on innovative things. And of course, the experience of Brazil is something very good and very useful that can be used by ours. We need to get together and to see how we can work together. And I hope this pandemic will allow us to do so.
And what about the organic production or the family production, things that are getting even more, famous all around the world because people want to eat better? How is your country facing this subject?
First of all, I need to mention that unfortunately, the composition of people living in rural areas and urban areas has changed in recent decades in Iran. Before it was 30%, 70% living in rural areas and 30% in cities. Now it's 80-20. 80% of population, they're living in urban areas, and only 20% living in rural areas. And so the family production has been affected highly. But at the same time, in recent years, with the help of, with the work of the local companies and also joint ventures with some famous big companies, foreign companies, we have tried to use products in greenhouses. So now around even big cities, you will find a lot of farms that they use farming in greenhouses. In some areas like southeast of Iran, now they produce a lot of different fruits and also other products. and they are directly exported to neighboring countries. We are doing well in these areas, but again, I should emphasize the problem is the water and how to best use the limited sources of water for better production.
And what about the environmental action, the environmental issue? With the climate change, the fact that the water is so rare, how are you working with this?
There are certain policies that are followed at the global level. You know that. We have Paris Agreement, and every country is committed to do certain measures. We are also committed to follow certain measures, and we are reporting back to the United Nations for the measures we do. These are at the global level. At the regional level, we have cooperation through the regional organizations and working together. With our neighboring countries, we are working how to use the water resources, both underground and underground water resources, which is very important. And Iran historically is famous on how to use the underground waters with different, very old and traditional ways. So we are trying to make sure that there will be enough water both for the population and for agricultural products. And recently, we have started a very big project that we bring water from Oman Sea in the south of Iran to the central part of Iran, and we use it both for industries and agriculture. This could change the landscape of our central and eastern part of Iran, which suffers seriously from the scarcity of water. And this project, we have started the first one, and probably there will be some more. That will be a big change to affect the environment.
That's really interesting. And are there other public policies that are trying to improve the sector?
Yeah, as I said, most of them is water. If we try to save both underground and underground waters, I think most of our agenda and objectives, we can say, have been achieved. This is something very serious. So the question of everything is around the question of water, which is very important. The other thing is that in recent years, it's almost over 10 years, we have the question of what they call it, dust winds that comes with dust, and it affects both cities and also rural areas.
You told me that you buy a lot of corn and soy of us, but we buy fertilizers, right? How is our relation in this theme?
As I said, Brazil's market for fertilizer is a huge market, and you need more, because the more you improve the methods of agriculturing, the more you use more lands for agriculture, it means the more need for fertilizer. Iran is also making different projects. Iran is among the 2-3 main gas producing countries in the world. We have a lot of sources of gas, and which is used directly for producing fertilizers. We have different petrochemical plants around the country. Just in recent months, we inaugurated a new project. And all these products produced by the petrochemical complexes can be used in this market. We have a good study of the market. Our experts have come here and started to know Brazil. Sometimes we need to change fertilizer in order to best fit the work of agriculture farmers here. It's a good market, and we are big producers. So we need to work together in order to have more fertilizers in this market. And one important thing is that the more money we have out of our exports here in Brazil, it means the more money can be used to purchase Brazilian products from this market. So this is something important. So in order to make our relations long-term, we need to make a good balance between what we export to Iran and what we import from Iran, and that will help us a lot.
That's what I would ask, because you told me that we need to create this long-term relationship. Even though we import and export and we have this trade, you think it's not a long-term relationship?
And we have long-term plans, so both farmers here in Brazil and consumers in Iran, they know that what will happen next year, what will happen in 5 years, and even in 10 years. If they have such a strategic vision, then we can work in a more sustainable way and make sure that everybody will be benefited from this mode of trade, rather than planning every year based on our opportunities and the situation. That would not help us a lot.
And can we say that the pandemic affected also this vision?
Which one?
That we can do it and have a long-term relation. You think with the pandemic, did it change the vision of the countries, or it just fortified this?
Of course, pandemic affected us. You know, we cannot deny that. From simple things like traveling people and meeting each other and making agreements to transportations, communication, everything has been affected. But there is one thing, is that we all learned that we are more dependent on each other from before. So the question of independence now is getting, under some changes, some concepts, we need to rethink about them. So we are more dependent on each other. Each country has its own capacities. And if we join these capacities together and we use all these capacities, we can be better off in order to make sure that the interest of people, interest of each country is secured. And one of most important lessons from the pandemic is that we need to talk more together. We need to explore possibilities, and we need to use those possibilities for the interest of the people. Apart from any differences, be it ideological or political or whatever, we are more dependent on each other, and we need to work more together.
Now about the differences. You just got to Brazil, so what do you think, what are your impressions of our country?
Oh, Brazil has been doing very well in recent decades. It's a big democracy. The democratic institutions in Brazil is strong enough. Also, you have a powerful private sector, as well as civil society, which is very active. On every item, you see different associations or non-governmental organizations. They are working together. So civil society plays an important role to make sure that democracy is working well. So my experience of Brazil is something unique, and I congratulate Brazilian government and Brazilian people that they are in the right track to development, and Brazil can be a good model for other developing countries to follow the suit. And I think we in Iran, we need to have more conversation together. We need to exchange our experience to make sure that we use the opportunities that we have in order for the I mean, for the benefit of our populations.
And is there any experience that you had here that you can tell us that made you feel like that about our country?
Yeah, the thing is that when in Brazil you are talking about agriculture or production, you are not just talking about even middle-sized farms. Everything is huge in here. You go to Mato Grosso, for example, is 900,000 square kilometers, the very biggest state. I traveled from Brasilia to Cuiabá, to Sorriso, to Sinop, and it's almost 1 hour and a half flights. And all during the way you see big, huge farms, not big, enormous farms that are working, and the numbers are very high, 1 million tons, 10 million tons. The technology they use, the agricultural machineries they use for production is something that I always learn it, and it amazes me. And I just 2 weeks ago, I went to Mato Grosso and I saw people working on the farm, people directly involved in agriculture, and it was a wonderful experience that I never forget. And I hope that this experience can be also used by other nations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your good program.
Você pode rever este programa e também outras entrevistas no nosso canal no YouTube. Aproveite para seguir a gente nas redes sociais, @AgroMais TV. Continue com a programação do AgroMais, seu canal voltado para o agronegócio 24 horas. Obrigada pela companhia. A gente se vê.